Good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday. I hope everyone is well. It is the 22nd of July, and this is your daily market outlook for today. Before we get into the charts, I want you to understand that the content on this YouTube channel or with anything that I do, including my course, is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos should be considered financial investment or trading advice. Trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Understand that any past performances discussed does not guarantee future results. You guys are responsible, as always, for your own financial decisions. Okay, let's jump into the charts for today and see what is going on. Obviously, Wednesday, we do have, or have had, should I say, the Great British Pound news CPI this morning, as you guys can see at 8 a.m. And then I don't think, yeah, we've got nothing now, as you guys can see, until, of course, tomorrow, which will be Euro news, and in early hours of the morning we have Australian dollar news as well. So, yeah, nothing really major for the rest of the week in regards to the US dollar. So let's see what happens in regards to that. Now, going into the charts, let's have a look at the daily time frame with the dollar and just discuss this at this moment in time. Of course, we have all probably marked out this demand area below to keep an eye out. And obviously, we talked about market basically coming into this area and then making the decision to see if we get that change of trend to go and create a new daily higher high. The one thing we did obviously discuss was the fact that we have had this internal retracement here where we've been obviously creating them lower lows and these lower highs. And obviously that is exactly what market is doing right now. It's having a pullback and it's back into that daily supply. So ideally, we obviously would like to see potential market, obviously carry on shorting into this and then into this demand area, filling in the rest of that imbalance and so on and so on. And then again, like I said, potentially we obviously will play this internal structure in case we do carry on. But if not, we can obviously look for the buys as well for the long term. Now, of course, one thing I want you guys to understand is if you look at the fib from this higher low to this higher high, of course, realize that we have obviously come lower than that 50%, lower than the 618, and obviously we have tapped into an imbalance here, and that's obviously market's been getting some moves. So also understand that if market does, keep carrying on from here, then of course that could be a potential reason why we're inside of that discounted area. And obviously that's why people could potentially be longing from here. So either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens from this daily supply. Now going into the four, what can we potentially see? Well, at this moment in time, we obviously had and we discussed on Monday about this daily supply area that we had here. And yes, it is or was a valid supply area because as we discussed, we had market dump, pull back and dump again. So it was a valid area, but also as we know, what does market like to do? Market likes to do to seek liquidity for one and also rebalance itself. Now, one thing you can notice is we have a 4 hour supply up here, and then we also had this imbalance that we have just below that supply area. So that is obviously why market is pulled back now, it seems, into this area. And the way that I look at this is, could this now potentially be, if you look, we have the expansion here, we have the expansion here. Could this now be in this supply? And then that's where we get the next expansion potentially into this for our demand area. So let's see. But of course, if that was to happen, let me just move this. If that was to happen, we got to understand as well at this moment in time, you can see that we have, of course, this going on. We have the bullishness. We're inside of that 4 hour range. So we have our 4 hour range, and then obviously you can see we have that internal of the 4 hour bullish. And then one thing we can identify is this 4 hour demand area below. So if, for instance, we do get a reaction from here, and then we obviously have that shift, I would just keep an eye out of this demand area and see what happens from here, because that could be the area, as I just said, where we could just carry on because internal is bullish. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys in regards to the US dollar. Now that leads me on to Euro USD. And obviously, you guys will know that if you look at the daily just quickly, you guys will be able to notice that, of course, we've discussed this quite a lot now where we've talked about this daily supply just being disgusting. It's just not something that obviously I like personally. Um, Again, we have a lot of imbalance above. We have this daily supply area above. In order for us to go bullish, we would obviously need the dollar to carry on bearish long term. So can I see that happening at this moment in time? No, it's been extremely consolidating, as you guys can see. So at this moment in time, Euro USD isn't the best, as we mentioned. What's happened right now is we've reached this daily 4 hour demand area again. Could it be a similar scenario to this where you can see market reached in and then moved away, come back into that daily demand, and then we're going to move away again fully. As you can see, we reached into this already, and now we've come back down. But if you look at this, what's going on here, you can obviously see this 4 hour demand, but you can see the internal here is, of course, bearish. You can see that market structure has obviously been internally bearish this week. So at this moment in time, we could just be coming into this supply to carry on. And that's exactly where market is slowing down at this moment in time. We've got 22 minutes left on this 4 hour candle to see what happens. Again, does that align with the dollar? Not necessarily, but obviously the dollar is slowing down and it potentially could carry on, which would obviously make sense for this area with your USD. If you look at the 1 hour, obviously you can see the 4 hour supply. You can obviously wait to see how this candle finishes. We took up that Asian high, and then could we see some sort of now expansion to the downside potentially? But again, for me, the dollar isn't really coming out of anywhere personally. So it's a bit of an awkward situation in regards to the major pairs, or should I say Euro USD. Great British Pound USD, a little bit different. Probably aligns a little bit more with how the dollar looks ish. If you look at this, you can see that market, obviously, we discussed that this for our demand, and I actually missed something very key. So we talked about this for our demand on Monday, I think it was, which you can see market obviously taps into. We got some sort of move away, then we come into the supply and then carried on down. The one thing that I missed is the fact that we have, if you look closely, this is why it's very important to constantly go over your charts. We have that imbalance above this 4 hour demand. I didn't even notice this 4 hour demand. So where this imbalance started to this low, we had that gap here, and that's exactly where market is now coming to and started to slow down. So, for me personally, these two scenarios is I'm expecting bullishness to carry on from here potentially, and then we make a decision from this 4 hour supply because the internal is, as you guys can see, is bearish. So could we get bullishness from here? Then when we reach into this area, we can see if market's going to carry on shorting, or if we get that change of trend to obviously potentially go and target the new daily higher high. So let's keep an eye out on that. If we look at the 1 hour, you can see what's happened at this moment in time is we've now taken that low of Asian. Ideally, we're going to see how this candle closes. If we can get some sort of bullish reaction to then potentially participate in longs from here, that would have to align, as I said, with potential shorts with the dollar. So again, it's a little bit of a mismatch in regards to GU and EU, but we'll have to wait and see what happens in regards to that. Again, which one would I favor looking at GU and EU? Personally, most likely GU just because of the way it's been a bit more trendier. Where, of course, if you look at this scenario for EU, it's been a lot more consolidating, a lot more noise, if that makes sense. Okay, let's have a look at NZUSD. We're going to look at the daily time frame. So first things first, we're inside this daily supply. Market's been slowing down. We took out the high of this, which is completely normal. And then, of course, now What are you doing? Market is started to now slowly start moving away. Now, first thought is we have this daily demand area below. So I'm going to wait and see what happens from a daily when we get into this demand area to see if this is going to carry on or it's just going to obviously carry on shorting from the supply. Looking at the four, I'm just going to quickly look left. You can see that all we pretty much done is took out the highs that we had created here. So we took out one, two, three equal highs pretty much, as you can see, and then we had this bearish reaction. As we say, market's looking to either seek liquidity, this is liquidity here, three equal highs, or rebalance itself. What are you doing? There we go. Rebalance itself. So you can see took out the highs, now we're descending downwards. Looking at market from a four, you guys can probably notice the same as me where you notice that it has been, of course, bullish. We have been getting bullishness in, and now we've obviously had that bearishness happen. So for me personally, from a 4 hour, if it was to carry on shorting, I would like to see this 4 hour supply area be that area. Yes, we're nowhere near that, but that is ideally what I'd like to see. Does that align with the dollar? Maybe if the dollar pushes lower, then of course we could obviously see that push higher. Now we're inside of this demand area again. You can see we've been here now respectively. One, two. You can see we've tapped it a few times inside this demand. I'm just going to have a quick look at the one and see what is going on with the one. And you can pretty much see we obviously have this imbalance. If you look at this from here, started at imbalance. Technically, we didn't tap into that, look, two, three, four times. Now market has come deeper, filled in that imbalance that we have in 1 hour. So now could we potentially see market give us some sort of shift to go bullish? Again, that would have to align with the US dollar going bearish, of course. Now, again, we have this 4 hour supply, but one thing I just noticed, stupidly, I didn't even notice it then. We are inside of this 1 hour supply area here. And that's why market has started to slow down. You can see we've tapped in. So ideally, if we do carry on shorting, then it would make perfect sense for the longs on GU and obviously NZUSD as well. So yeah, let's wait and see. Obviously, GU would be my most favorable pair rather than NU at this moment in time, just from looking at it. AUD let's see what she's doing. In fact, let's look at the daily just quickly. So from a daily perspective, we are still inside of this daily supply area. We also do have this daily supply area above, which hasn't been touched or mitigated. You can see market internally has been bullish in order to get to this supply. Of course, we've been reacting out of here as well. We haven't reached into this daily demand area yet, which obviously, as I think I mentioned Monday, that's it. Ideally what I would like to have seen, but we haven't had that. If we look at the 4 hour, oh, that's the 8. We mentioned on Monday the fact that market didn't retrace into the deeper level. We obviously reacted from this 4 hour imbalance that we had. Now, since that 4 hour imbalance, market has just been, of course, bullish, as you guys can see. So for me, looking at the condition of AUD/USD at this moment in time, we've had obviously this internal is pretty corrective. You know, this taps into here, come back down. We had an imbalance, market come in, started to move away, failed to go and create a new high. And then where did it come back into? Currently today, they started this imbalance here. So for me, obviously we've tapped in and mitigated that 4 hour supply. I'm just going to look at the 1 hour and see if I can see anything different. Yeah, so what I can see is we have this 1 hour supply area, demand area. We took out this Asian low and we took out this Asian low. We filled in a little bit of imbalance. If I zoom in closely, you can see from this wick, start of this wick to start at the end of this wick, we have that gap. And obviously market has slowed down from there. So again, if the dollar was to give us some shorts from this 1 hour supply, then that would align with, of course, looking for longs on AUD USD from this 1 hour demand area. So let's see how this plays out in regards to AUD USD. And again, that's where you can look into the lower time frames like the 30, 50 minute if you guys, of course, want to. But yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens with AUD USD. Set your alerts, keep an eye on them for today. USD CAD. So USD CAD seems to have not reached this daily supply that I would like. Pretty much, if you look at the dollar, it's not exactly the same because we obviously, oh, let me just remove this. We haven't reached that daily supply, and that's why market slowed down. Whereas USD CAD hasn't reached into that supply area just yet. So yeah, of course, could this just be early inducement? Could this just be market preparing a short to go long? We'll wait and see, of course. But we have had a reaction from this daily demand. Now, if we jump down to the 4, can I see anything different? Well, technically, just being honest, I can't from a selling point of view. But from a longing point of view, what I can see is market obviously reacting currently from, oh no, it's not, it's almost reacted from this demand. Where this 4 hour demand, market's come very, very close to that demand area, but obviously hasn't. So that probably still is my main area at this moment in time. Of course, we do have this demand area below. We have a lot of imbalance, but just looking at the internal, you can see that from here, we obviously went bullish, mini pullback, bullish again. So if I look at the dollar, and if the dollar carries on longing, then again, of course, I expect potentially this area to be where USD CAD carries on, longing as well. If the dollar carries on shorting, do I have anything in regards to the 4 hour for USD CAD? Nope. Do I have anything in regards to the 1 hour for USD CAD? Yes. And it would be this area here. So that is a 1 hour supply area. And that's exactly what's happened here is markets come in, filled in this imbalance that we left from this institutional candle, tapped into this 1 hour supply, slowed down, and it's obviously moved away. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. It's the same as this. If we do carry on shorting, then what can we look for with USD CAD? Well, potentially what we could look for is we have obviously market consolidate during Asian. Let me just make this a bit bigger. Market consolidate during Asian, and then obviously had this breakout during London. So if I'm just going to look at the 2 hour set, and I'm just going to mark out potentially this candle here, just because I prefer the 2 hour candle to the one. The one obviously would have gone here, but that would probably most likely be where I would like to see market come back into if it was to carry on short. And so if market was to probably do this, gives that change in trend, slow down, and then carry on. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys in regards to that. Now, USD CHF, let's have a look at what she's doing. Daily, we obviously had this demand area which we've been getting that bullishness away from, but we still haven't broke that higher high just yet. If you look at the 4, you can see that this was the daily that we talked about, the daily higher low, daily higher high. We come into the 4 hour and 1 hour demand areas, and we've been bullish since. At this moment in time, if you look at structure, you can see that from here, we've had a mini pullback and then this again. So the first area that I'd be looking for bulls would be around here from a 4 hour. Would be from around this area. Similar is looking very similar to how USD CAD is looking as well. From a bearish perspective, if it was to carry on bearish, then it would be from where we are currently reacted from at this moment in time. Because as you can see, this imbalance, little imbalance, the start of this imbalance is here. That's where we consolidated before getting this breakthrough. So we have our supply and demand areas. I'm just going to quickly look at the 1 and see what is going on. Come above there. Okay. So for me personally, in regards to this 4 hour, we have obviously an imbalance below. We have this 1 hour demand area. Um, I'm trying to think about what if the dollar does what we expect the dollar to do, what could this do? If dollar carries on bullish, then again, we could just carry on bullish from here, or we could get another dip before that happens. So we actually touch that 4 hour demand, and then we can make that decision. If the dollar carries on bearish, then you can obviously look for potential areas such as potentially like this area here as our 1 hour supply, because we also have that imbalance there as well. And then obviously potentially get fill in that imbalance, take out these highs that we have, and then get that move away. But yeah, again, it just depends on what the dollar is doing. It's obviously at this moment in time, very, very consolidating away from this 1 hour supply area. You know, what could happen is market could want to just touch that 4 hour, come and take these equal highs that we've got with Asian, and then we could obviously get that, true move away. So again, it's just one of them scenarios where are we just going to carry on shorting from here, or are we actually going to tap into that 4 hour supply and then take out pretty much the equal highs that we have created? So here, there we go. So let's see. USD Japanese yen. Look at that this morning. So just missed out on this daily demand that we have, but you can see that that could be obviously telling us that market's just going to carry on bullish with USD Japanese yen. If we look at the 4, can we see anything significant? Well, two scenarios that I'd look for with USD Japanese yen is first one would be this obviously demand, which we haven't tapped into. That was probably my more favorable area because we do have the imbalance below. What's happened, it seems at this moment, is we've tapped into this area of demand here. Just because if you look at this, we obviously have pullback, expansion, mini pullback on the 1 hour, expansion. So that's why it's a valid area. If I look at the 1, you could probably see it a little bit more clearer. Now, going into the 1, in fact, let me just quickly go back to the 4 set and look left, daily. Okay, so looking at the 1 hour, of course, we've had that bullish reaction from here. But what can we identify at this moment in time? Well, we can pretty much identify the fact that we've come into and slowed down a little bit from this 1 hour supply. You can see we've had Asian breakout, pullback, breakout again, and we've come into that 1 hour supply. So again, same scenario, if the dollar carries on bearish, then I would expect this 1 hour supply area to be where we obviously hold and obviously carry on shorting away. Again, this is where you can look at the lower time frame to see how market is reacting to potentially obviously participate in USD Japanese yen. Could this be, where market reacts from, and then we come into this lower part of the demand potentially? Potentially it could, but if you look at this 4 hour candle, it's not the nicest realistically, is it, with the large wick? And what I mean by that is when there's a large wick, it's usually indicating that volume's slowing down in that direction of shorts, and then obviously longs could come in. So just be aware of that, of course. But yeah, that is your daily market outlook for today, guys. I appreciate every single person as always. And yeah, man, same as always, make sure you got notifications turned on. Make sure you drop a like on this video. And yeah, man, we'll catch up tomorrow. Take care and God bless.